Please welcome Chicagoland's own Thayil.
City, the one that made me the defect I am today. I grew up about 35 miles down 57, Lincoln Highway, Western. Grade school, junior high, high school, early college. But I had this great set of friends. We'd gather at whomever's house, had no parents that weekend, and we'd sit around and this one buddy of ours always had the weed, and we'd clean it on some gatefold. That gatefold was usually Pink Floyd, Dark Side of the Moon, or maybe it was David Bowie, Latin Sing, or Frank Zappa, Hot Rats. But more often than not, it was his album, 2112. So my buddies would clean the sticks, stems, and seeds out of there in preparation for something that my buddies decided to call a bong-a-thon. We passed the bong around until there's one man standing. I'm a lightweight, so I was the first out. But I will tell you, if I get any lyrics or titles wrong, I'm not stoned. I'm just older and I'm nervous. And my girlfriend, Rush fan girlfriends, would give me way more shit than you guys are gonna give. But the one dude, there's one guy who would win a lot. He's a little bit bigger, a little bit stronger. His younger brother's in the audience tonight. But he would win, and he would time it so grand finale would come on, and he'd strut around the room in all of our faces. Attention, planets of the Solar Federation, we've resumed control. I think he just beat everybody just so he could do that. Make his eyes as big as possible. Anyways, a lot of us grew up and moved on from each other, from our record collections, went away to college, changed our tastes. But then Hiro Yamamoto and I, from Park Forest, Illinois, moved out to Seattle. Also a friend of ours named Bruce Pat, who went out there and started Sub Pop Records. So we started meeting these other musicians, and they all had the same record collection. They probably all lost the Bonathon. We all started revisiting our record collections, so we talk about the stuff we grew up with. And we explored those in the mid-late 80s, and it informed the music we were making, as well as the punk rock that we were involved with. Now, a lot of those bands and records didn't hold up, like, in the 80s as we got older, but some did, and it was great to hear Black Sabbath again, or a Zeppelin, and to re-embrace it. But there's one band in particular that not only held up, but earned a new sense of reverence and respect from us. They had redefined themselves and reinvented themselves in so many ways. Many of us redefined our relationship with their work and the kind of band they were. And what they were was not just brilliant musicians, but just brilliant people, just civil. And when I say civil, intelligent, witty, baseball. We're just so proud, and these guys, everyone in Seattle has this kind of reverence for them. And I want to introduce you to the pilot on our passage to Bangkok, Mr. Geddy Lee.
great to be here with you, Kim. Thank you.
That's right. Cool shorts.
And them.
Yeah, fantastic. This is great. This is where I learned to be dumb and smart. Anyways, how you doing?
I'm good. I'm great.
Great book.
Thank you.
Great conversation. There's so many stories in here. I just don't even know where to begin. But I have an idea.
Okay.
I want to talk about being a son of an immigrant and identity, especially in our parents' newfound country. I'm a son of immigrants. I've lost my parents in the past half year, and also during that past year, my founding bassist, Hiro Yamamoto, and I in Soundgarden were both involved in the Asian American Hall of Fame. So identity and ethnicity and being a son of immigrants is a big issue, as it is very profoundly an issue with you in your book.
Yes. Well, like you know, my parents came over to form a new life for themselves, and they were survivors of the Holocaust, and they landed in 1948 in Halifax, made their way to Toronto, and started to raise a family with literally $10 in their pockets. And so I grew up in what was a pretty happy household because they had made it. They had survived the horrors of World War II and their incarceration. And so growing up, child of immigrants, imbued me with pluses and minuses, as I'm sure you discovered. There was something different about our household, and because we had different languages and we had a different culture, and so of course it was something that we embraced at home, but felt a little uncomfortable out in public, with the majority of people in my suburb that did not relate to that culture. So there was a lot of growing pains and a lot of things we had to learn. But perhaps like you, the older I got, the more accomplished I became in my craft when that day finally rolled around. The prouder I became of my culture, and the more I embraced it. And I'm happy to say I've finally achieved some sort of comfortability with all those strange stories of my youth. But I don't know if that was the same experience for you.
Probably. I think so. Did you feel any alienation from your peers or community?
Yeah, a lot of alienation early on. We were a small group of Jewish families that moved into a suburb that was not used to that kind of ethnicity. And there were the bumps along the road. We were, bussed into a junior high school that didn't really appreciate our arrival very much, shall we say. And it's a funny story because I had an unlikely savior at that school. We would arrive, the bus, and we would have to walk from, it was like, a walk from the bus where they dropped you off to the school itself, and there were catcalls, there was jeering, there was bullying. And so you always had to kind of brace yourself for that walk. And then a funny thing happened. I met this kid who had kind of longish hair, but not really long hair. And he kind of gravitated to me, and it was really unusual. I didn't know why, but he was super friendly. And when I became sort of friends with him, people stopped bullying me. They stopped, paying much attention to me in that regard. And then it turned out that he was a very well-known, up-and-coming young hockey player. In Canada, hockey, and in Chicago Blackhawks. Original six team. If you were a hockey player in my school, you were something. And that young man befriended me, and we started going to concerts together. And that young man grew up to be a fellow named Steve Shutt, who played for the Montreal Canadiens and won numerous Stanley Cups. He's got a lot of Stanley Cup rings. But we gravitated to each other, and in a strange way, he kind of saved me from that torment, and just by association. So interesting turn
Oh, right on, that